Achtung! A quick little We Have Ways pod from James and I today as we're doing a live episode tonight. We don't want to spoil you, do we? We don't want to spoil you. We want you to appreciate us. Right, join us at 8:30 p.m. UK time. It's not Zulu, is it? Zulu +1, because Zulu is GMT, isn't it?
Yes.
And we're on British summertime now. Join us at 8:30 p.m. UK time, Zulu +1 for a live stream. We're going to answer loads of your questions, and there's the chance for you to join in during the show. We'll be tweeting out links today. May I say how refreshing it was to do a thing where you're going out live and there's a live stream? Because I've broadcast on the radio quite a lot, and what you have is the emails coming in, and half of them are going, why is this arsehole on my radio? So it was very nice to be with a group of people actually going, I'm really enjoying listening to this. So that in itself was a unique and refreshing broadcasting experience. In the meantime, we'll be tweeting out links today to let you know how to get onto the live stream. In the meantime, some intriguing correspondence. James, we're just giving you a nugget for this Thursday bonus. This is from Ryan Van Bibber, who's the editor of Outside magazine, which is aimed at outdoor enthusiasts. Oh dear, Ryan. Right. Could you tell the joggers to at least acknowledge when I step out of their way, please? Hello, mates. Hello, mates, blokes, which makes me sound more like a tourist. Anyway, thanks for upping your output on the pod. It's a wonderful distraction in these times. I usually listen to your show while I'm running, as it makes it a somewhat more tolerable activity. I know you've talked about training on the show a few times, specifically with regards to pilots and officers, but I'm curious as to what kind of physical training standards were expected for various armours in combat during the war. That is an excellent question, because after all, the big revolution that Montgomery is often held up as big, if nothing else, is that he was really into fitness and training, and he got men running, and that was the sort of, when he started training when he was given the job of training an army properly after Dunkirk. In fact, it's Milligan in his book goes, then Monty becomes a chief. All the beer was stopped, and we all suddenly had to start running. None of us like Monty or something like that. But in the field, what do they do?
So it's very interesting. If you're in the front line, you're not doing PT. Okay, you're busy fighting, and that's what you're doing. So your PT, your physical training, is to gear you up to cope with the stresses and strains that you're going to have. And the point is, and obviously, I'm doing this Sicily books. I've been reading training notes from the Sicilian campaign by the US, and also a whole load of training notes done by Lionel Wigram, who was from the battle schools, who was sent over and commanded
the battle school guy.
Who temporarily commanded the Buffs in 78th Division.
We should do a podcast about him and his battle school, I think, because that's such an interesting subject. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. And his grandson is also called Lionel Wigram, and he's a movie producer who does a lot of films with Lionel Richie. Richie, Greg, Thingy Richie, Lock, Stock, Two, Smoking Barrels.
Used to be married to Madonna.
Yeah, Guy Ritchie. Yeah, Guy Ritchie. Anyway, yes, that's him. But that's just by the by. But anyway, so all the comments coming out in the training notes are all saying we have to be tougher to deal with what we've got, what we're doing. Because no one had done mountain warfare before. There's a few sort of high hills and things in northern Tunisia, but no one had done actual mountain warfare. And no one had been on the go quite as much as some of the units. So some of the units had quite a comparatively easy time of it in Sicily. The big red one, the 1st Infantry Division, were just basically in it the whole time. I mean, they went from the 10th of July all the way through to end of the Battle of Troina on the 6th of August. In 1943, and they were all absolutely exhausted. And one of the big messages that comes through goes, we have to up the game with our physical training, and our physical training has to also include going up mountains, carrying packs up mountains, doing long marches, marching for a long time, doing 55 miles in 30 hours and all this kind of stuff, and really, really cranking that up. The moment a campaign is over, no one is in the line the whole time. You just can't be. And actually, one of the things I've been kind of working on is this, actually, what does a divisional attack mean? And it's quite interesting. The number of men that are actually involved in a divisional attack at any one moment, infantry actually attacking, is really small. It's like 500 men, 750 men, something like that out of it's about 1,500 men out of a division of 15,000 are actually in the front line on fighting at any one time. But those guys are having an absolutely punishing time.
Across how wide a front?
Well, at Troin, it's about 10 miles.
Right.
And the problem, of course, the problem you've got is it doesn't matter how much artillery you've got. It doesn't matter how much smoke bombs you've got, mortars, P-40s coming over and dropping 500-pound bombs and strafing and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
To get ground, you've still got to get up out of your scraping the ground. You've got to get up from that shelter behind that rock, and you've actually got to get up. And necessarily, you've got to get the high ground, which means you're going to be exposed, which means you're going to be seen, which means you're going to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And if you're in a squad of 10 men, you know, and on that very rocky ground, a mortar shell goes off, that could wipe out all 10 men. Just like that, even if you're spaced 10 yards apart, because you've got, particularly on that rocky ground, you haven't got the soil to absorb the blast. And you've also got the added effect of all the splinters, exactly. So you might have 2 dead, 1 or 2 more kind of really badly wounded, and another 6 out of the action. So that's just gone, just like that. So you can see how these attacks start to bog down, because what happens is, you know, the platoon commander or the squad leader has been killed or wounded or whatever. So you haven't got that person going, come on, just keep moving. They're conscripts. They hit the dust. They just don't move. And so what you're doing is you're gaining ground by increments, by kind of inches, yards, you know, a few hundred yards at a time. Then you've got to wait for nightfall. Then there's a counterattack. The moment there's a counterattack, that's your moment to hammer the enemy again, because they're then out of their exposed positions, and whatever they're hammering at you when you're attacking, you can deliver kind of 5 times, 10 times as worse, as bad. And you just attrit them. You just grind them down. And that's why if you don't win in the first couple of hours, it's going to take 5 days or 4 days or 6 days or whatever it's going to be. Because it's just, there is just no alternative. And the only way you can win is just by grinding down the enemy. This is when people start talking about, oh, the Allies are a bit slow, or they're a bit stodgy, or whatever. There is simply no alternative to gaining ground other than wholesale slaughter of your infantry units, which if you're German on the Eastern Front or Red Army on the Eastern Front, you're prepared to take that hit. But obviously, democratic armies aren't.
Yeah. But so fitness becomes a thing that people are super conscious of. They work on, and after all, you recover from injuries much more quickly and easily if you're fitter. It's the other another really important factor that fit people get better faster. I mean, the other thing that's really interesting, of course, is that you look at. When I went to Afghanistan 4, 5, 6 years ago, I remember that there were a lot of very bulky people, clearly very, very fit people, but they were really bulky because they've been in the gym, they're working out, putting muscles on, all this sort of thing. You look at people from the Second World War, they're all wiry. You don't see bulky people. And obviously the diet isn't there to bulk up. You know, you can't have steak for breakfast every day and all that sort of thing. And you do wonder. You always look at it and it looks like a different kind. The way rugby players used to look like basically normal people.
Do you remember Dr. Webb, who was the fullback? He used to do a bit of kicking and stuff. I mean, he was a really spindly fellow, wasn't he? I mean, I think the thing is, but I remember meeting this. I got to know this SAS guy who was in the Gulf War. And it wasn't Annie McNabb, but it was in that kind of gang. And none of those guys were big. They weren't beefcakes. They were sinewy. And I think a lot of and I remember when I was in Afghanistan, again, the guys weren't beefcakes. Again, they had this kind of, they had big hands, and they were, you could see they were mentally and physically really, really tough, but they weren't kind of sort of big bulging guys. Whereas I worked with this American guy, absolutely lovely guy, who is a beefcake. And, you know, he's in that kind of mixed martial arts stuff and all the rest of it. And he's got bulging pecs and, you know, and when you think of American Special Forces, that's kind of sort of what you think about.
But surely his tummy's going to rumble if he's doing 9 days on one ration.
Yeah, but they're Americans, so they're going to get more rations, aren't they?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
But I think, but to go back to the original point, the point I was going to say was yes, physical training is really, really, really important. Absolutely vital. You can't do it when you're on the go. But there is a battle exhaustion which takes over, which has got nothing to do with physical fitness, really. It's just to do with, you've been in the line too long and you need to get out and have some R&R.
And so, but when you were rotated out of the line and you're not in reserve, but when you're out of the line, would they be back to running and press ups and?
Well, no. To start off with, they're just given a few days of kind of sort of, you know, having a dip in the med and kind of going out on the booze and you know, and seeing some whores and stuff. And then you start the training process again, and absolutely you're doing that. Yeah, completely. And of course, it's much easier in the ETO for Allied troops because, of course, they're not being strafed and shot at and bombed behind their own lines, and they don't have partisans shooting at them.
Yeah. Well, we hope that answers your question, Ryan. Enjoy the outside. It's about the only thing is, well, while it's still allowed out, mate. You know, what this country needs now is a burst of really bad weather. God help us. Anyway, we will see you tonight for our live cast at 8:30. Details on the We Have Ways pod Twitter account. Lovely talking to you. Just nice to see you, James. Take care. Cheerio.
Yeah, cheerio.